All right then, so let's get started then, and we might get a few people joining us as we get going. So welcome everybody to the launch of the Community Transport Association's Driving Impact Through Data Challenge. This is part of the Tees Valley Combined Authorities programme, which Edge Innovation and Health Innovation North East and North Cumbria are running. It's part of a wider programme called the Tees Valley Innovation Challenge, and it's funded through UK government. So I'm just going to run through a set of slides. We're delighted to have the Community Transport Association with us today. We've got Caroline and Nick, who will introduce as we move forward. But delighted to have them to share their insights and their details about the Community Transport Association and this challenge today. So if I just talk you through briefly, my name's Susan Ross and I'm head of projects at Edge Innovation. And as I said, we're running this programme on behalf of the Tees Valley Combined Authority, and it is funded through the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, which is through central government. So just to talk you through initially what the whole challenge programme is before we get into the specifics of this challenge with the Community Transport Association. So the whole programme is a significant programme that we're delivering, which we're hoping to engage roughly 150 businesses across the Tees Valley. It's quite an intensive programme that we're running, so we're not necessarily looking at that very low-level support. It is very detailed interactions with many of those, particularly small and medium-sized enterprises that we're working with. The reason why we're doing this is that we're trying to strengthen innovation maturity within the Tees Valley economy. We're trying to support innovative businesses through very tailored business support, through coaching and mentoring, and we want to unlock the growth potential of the Tees Valley business community and the Tees Valley as a whole. We're doing this through a range of different types of tailored business support, and I will take you through this 4 key areas of that, but we're trying to provide those businesses with what they need to develop, particularly from an innovation point of view, but also connecting them into large organisations such as the CTA today to help to kind of create new opportunities to connect for mutual growth opportunities and to promote the Tees Valley as an innovation hub. So we're working with Tees Valley organisations specifically. They're the ones who are actually receiving the support as such. Some of the organisations, the large organisations that we're working with, aren't necessarily just Tees Valley based, but all of them have an involvement within the Tees Valley, such as the Community Transport Association. And we are specifically looking to support SMEs within the Tees Valley. So they are businesses with under 250 employees and less than a £50 million turnover. So in terms of what we're going to deliver, there are 4 different areas of support, and businesses can pick and choose which area of support is most suitable for them. They can be involved in any part of the challenge programme, and I'll take you through those 4 ones in a second. But as part of that, we will be delivering 10 innovation challenges, of which this is the first one to go live today. We're working across 7 different challenge innovation themes, and we will be delivering £130,000 of grant funding through the programme to support those SMEs to develop innovative solutions to those challenges. So in terms of the 4 key support routes, we have the innovation challenges, and as I've just mentioned, we have 10 different challenges that are launching between now and October this year. Within that, businesses will receive financial support if they're eligible to be on the challenge programme, and they will be delivering solutions to key challenges that we have defined with the challenge holders. And again, I'll talk you through all of the detail of that in just 1 second. We also have direct one-to-one support for businesses. So that's where the SMEs receive business support from us. It is bespoke and specific to their needs. So we like to get to know the businesses and understand what their challenges are and how we can support them to move towards their organisational objectives. We also have a range of innovation training. We're running 3 cohorts of this. It's specifically focused around design-led innovation and human-centred design interactions. And that's where we support businesses to understand what design-led thinking and design-led approaches are, to help them to create new products and services or processes that will help them to unlock some of their growth potential. And then our final route to support is through the Innovation Showcase. This is where we will be promoting the Tees Valley as a hub of innovation and connecting different businesses together, but also giving around 50 SMEs in the Tees Valley area the opportunity to exhibit at a very large conference and to share their innovation journey and also collaborate with other potential customers and finance through that process. Sorry, just let somebody into the waiting room. So in terms of the Innovation Challenge specifically, This is the Innovation Challenge part of the programme, which is where we do the 10 key challenges. The idea of this is to try and support access to new markets and opportunities and new solutions to be developed. As I mentioned earlier, this is where we work with SMEs to give them the opportunity to respond to challenges set out by large organisations. So in this case, that's the Community Transport Association, who have designated that they have a challenge around data and showing impact through their data, which they're going to talk you through very shortly. And the idea is to connect SMEs with the Community Transport Association or those large challenge holders so that we can create responses to those challenges for that mutual benefit and collaboration opportunities moving forward. Edge Innovation and Health Innovation North East and North Cumbria are the delivery partners, and we're facilitating that collaboration. And what we call the solution developers are the SMEs, so the local small and medium-sized enterprises within the Tees Valley who can respond to those challenges. We will be delivering 10 challenges which span across 7 key themed areas. I'll take you through those key areas in a second. And like I say, within this one, this is where we do have grant funding to support those businesses to develop their solutions to those potential challenges, with the hope that those solutions can then be commercialised and taken forward. So these are the 7 key challenge themed areas that we're looking at. Now, as you'll see today, many of the challenges don't just fit into one box, they fit across different ones. So this one particularly fits both the transport and logistics one. It also is a digital solution that we're looking for, so it hits the digital one. It also supports net zero and decarbonisation, and within the social enterprise one, because again, it's going to support a lot of those community organisations that are the fundamentals of community transport. But in essence, when we deliver this 10 challenges, they will fit at least one of these key themed areas of digital innovation, healthcare, net zero and decarbonisation, social enterprise, transport and logistics, professional services, and creative industries. So in terms of the challenge innovation process itself, as I've mentioned, we have these 7 themed areas. We will be launching 10 challenges, of which this is the first one, and publicising those through webinars such as this. They will then be recorded, as this one is today, and promoted widely so that anybody who doesn't attend today will still have the opportunity to be able to apply for the challenges if it's suitable for them. Within each of those 10 challenge areas, we anticipate that we will fund approximately 3 SMEs or choose 3 suitable SMEs in each of them. It may be that some have more and some have less, but ideally we're looking for 3 across them. They will need to submit a short application form, of which that's live online, and we have the links for you at the end of this webinar so that you can access that. If you're successful and you get through that process, you will then be awarded £1,000 to take some time to initially scope your solution to the challenge that's presented to you. You will then pitch that back, and of that, one of those organisations that are selected will then be awarded up to £10,000 in funding to work with the CTA to develop that solution. And then we will have a final pitch back at the end of the programme before we round it all up to see how that's developed and see how the relationship moves on from there with the programme evaluation at the end. I'm now going to hand over to Caroline. We're delighted to have the Community Transport Association with us today. Caroline Whitney is the Director for England for the Community Transport Association, and she'll just take you through the Community Transport Association itself. Thank you, Caroline.
Thanks, Susan. Thanks, everybody. As Susan said, I'm the Director for England at Community Transport Association. So we are a UK-wide. If you move us on to the next slide, Susan. Can I move it? So if we can jump on to the next slide. I don't think, there we go. As I say, I work for the Community Transport Association. We are a UK-based membership organisation. We cover the whole of the United Kingdom, and we have one key goal, which is to support non-commercial or not-for-profit transport operators across the UK. This includes all forms of non-commercial transport. So services that you might think of, such as dial-a-ride or car schemes, anything that is classed as inclusive or accessible typically falls within the remit of our membership. Public transport has been dropping over the last few years, and so there is an even bigger need for our types of services as bus services reduce. particularly in rural areas as well as urban areas, there is a very limited scope of transport for many within our community. So one of the things that we do is we advocate for an increase in those services across the UK. It's really important that everybody has equal access to transport, irrelevant of where you live, irrelevant of any sort of disability that you might have. You should still be able to access your community in the same way as everybody else. So we do lots of work in terms of influencing local government, regional and national government to try and support funding into the sector, or ensure that community transport is included within the design of transport systems in the UK. If you jump to the next one. So our membership currently is slightly under 2,000, but we think the actual size of the sector across England in particular is around 4,000. So it is a fairly sizable chunk of the sector, the transport sector. And I think there's a lot of perceptions of our sector that it's just for, I mean, we're kind of supporting it with one of our own pictures, but people often think community transport is just for older people or people with a disability, but it really isn't. Community transport is for anybody that has a transport barrier, literally anybody. So if you don't have a public bus in your area, you have a transport barrier, and so therefore community transport should be accessible to you. And we are seeing more and more of our operators opening up their memberships to a broader range of community members, because actually public transport has been reducing. With the new government, we might see a shift in that, but it's unlikely because there is still only so much funding available. Our operators support people with a range of barriers. So as I say, it's any sort of transport barrier, and it could be that you do have a public bus, but you can't afford the bus. It could be that you have some sort of disability, or that actually you have a lack of confidence of using public transport. There's a whole range of reasons why you might need to use these services. And we find that people that access our services often have higher levels of social isolation or exclusion, often have more health conditions because they have had limited access to transport in the past. So we really, really want to change people's lives with transport, and we know that does happen. So that's just a little bit about community transport. I'm going to hand over to Nick, who's going to introduce the kind of detail of the challenge that we're looking at today.
Thank you, Caroline. Good morning, everybody. My name's Nick Mills. I'm the Research and Insight Manager for the Community Transport Association. I'm just going to go through the challenge. First of all, the challenge in a nutshell, so a quick overview of the challenge, and then I'll go through how that translates into specific challenges for people within, for different groups within the sector. So what we are looking to do today is find a solution to the problem that we set out on the left there. Collecting information on operators' activities and their impact is essential for us as a member organisation representing the interests of community transport organisations to policymakers, to funders and decision makers. But it's a challenging thing to do because of resource disparities amongst organisations, inconsistent data collection methods, and a lack of standardisation. So what we find is that our members are collecting data differently, or if or not sharing it in the same way. So what we want to get is a situation where we can pull together information about the sector, about the journeys, the trips made, and so forth. And I'll go through that in a little bit more detail through the slides. The impact of the problem for us is that it limits our ability to campaign and advocate for organisations. It also has a limit for operators as well, because they don't have access to an overall body of information. In terms of In terms of the process, we'll go through that in a little bit more detail through the slides. Currently, we're collecting data on a sort of large scale annual basis, but we want to be able to do it on a more regular basis. And then finally, the progress, we want to be able to sort of make sure that we have that standardized data collected more regularly to help us understand local trends and reflect that back to policymakers and decision makers. Okay, can we go next one, please? Thank you. So the problem from the point of view of us is us as in the CTA is essentially that we want to have sufficiently accurate data to showcase the work of the sector, but also be able to show changes in operations over time. So we want to be able to show changes in the number of trips, types of passengers, levels of demand, and so forth. So at the moment, that isn't necessarily happening. Our future state is a slightly more unified data framework. So what it's caused by is that organisations collect their own data on trips, which they do as part of requirements for their permits, but also as requirements for funding and various other requirements that they have. But there's not necessarily common definitions, and there's not necessarily common software used either. We did recently State of the Sector survey and found that there was over sort of 15 different types of software being used for journey planning. So to go to the resource intensivity, the last point, this means that our data and research is generally resource intensive and can miss some of the details. So we have to go to organisations on an annual or biannual basis, and it can be quite difficult then to get into the detail of the different types of services they put us on, passenger types, etc. So all of this data is collected by operators, but it's not necessary. But we don't necessarily have the tools to bring it together. And as I say, that moves on to the problems for the operators themselves. So there's a lot of similarities between the challenges faced here for the operators and for the CTA. Chiefly, we need to be mindful that the operators are not-for-profit organisations, and in most cases they have limited resources, limited time. But we also need to make sure that we're mindful of the diverse data practices that organisations have. So we need to understand how data can be standardised and collected. So that means having common definitions, but also adapting to different journey planning software. Resource constraints, as I mentioned, and that will drive and having better data from that will improve delivery and opportunities for growth. So that's opportunities for operators themselves to increase their efficiency, but also be able to show their value more to funders, etc. So, for example, one of the tools that we would have as our disposal here is the Community Transport Social Value Toolkit, which provides an opportunity to have a common social value output for organisations. Okay, next, please. In terms of the challenge for users, the current state on the left-hand side is really sort of issues relating to transport-related social exclusion. So the key benefits for users are realised through enabling more sustainable services by our members, and the actual collection of data shouldn't infringe on passengers' use. However, the benefits of continued sustainable CT services are listed on the right. So what we want to be able to facilitate are these enhanced accessibilities, reduced isolation, improved quality of life, and environmental benefits, which are brought about by continued community transport services and the opportunity to grow for those organisations who are looking to do that. Okay, next, please. In terms of the process, the current process we've discussed is quite disparate in terms of we have a number of different organisations with varied systems for collecting and understanding their operations and their value created. And we also have a need for sort of standardised use of of data, both in terms of its definitions and also in terms of ensuring that the same tools are being used. In terms of simplified data requirements and sharing, we want to be able to allow operators to readily share their data in an easy way with us, but also we also want the members and the majority to be able to look at the data of the community transport sector across the sector. We've asked members, and the majority are willing to share their data in this way. 3/5 said that they would, and only 1 in 10 weren't willing to do it. The rest were undecided. But most of them were wanting to use web form or some sort of portal to be able to share their data in this way. So that's the kind of the preferred method. And ultimately, we want to be able to summarise community transport activities back to stakeholders, but also back to the members themselves. Okay. In terms of the progress, the solution, what we want, and what it should and shouldn't be, rather, the solution shouldn't be overly complicated for organisations that are labour intensive or expensive. And the other thing is that we are a member organisation, so the solution should be developed with members. We want to be able to make sure that we're utilising the operator's experience, and that any solution developed is actually usable by our members. So it's in outer scope there, but there's a clear process to work with our membership, which we can facilitate.
Great, thank you very much for that, Nick and Caroline. In terms of the timeline for the programme then, due to the joys of the summer holidays and everybody taking breaks at the moment, that's why we've recorded today's session, but we have extended the application deadline as well. So any applications are due in on Friday the 6th of September at 5 o'clock. We will have a very tight turnaround for getting those back and assessed and then a response back to you. So we will have a response back to you by the 11th of September as to whether you've been successful or not in that first stage application. If you are successful and you complete the applications and we award you £1,000, you'll then get a period of time, roughly around 6 weeks or so, to work through that initial idea that you've got. And then what we would request from you is a pitch back around about the week commencing the 4th of November, so that you can tell CTA exactly what your solution is and how it's going to respond to those challenges that Nick and Caroline have set out for us today. Then if you are lucky enough to secure the £10,000 to be the one organisation that puts that solution into place with CTA, then you'll have a period of time to work that up. And we will have a final project closeout for this programme is the 31st of March. So we'll do some final work with you around March time to, again, pitch back to CTA around how that's progressed, how your solution is developing, and then hopefully a continuing relationship from then on. Just move this forward. So we're going to open up the floor to any questions that anybody may have. I do have the link to the challenge application form, etc. But if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask myself or CTA now. If we don't, we've got one in chat. I'm just going to check what it is. Oh, that's very kind. Caroline has posted into the chat if anybody would like to directly contact CTA, that's fine as well during the process. Obviously, the Edge team are available, particularly myself. If anybody does have any questions through the process, then you can contact us directly. You can go through our either Hello Edge email address, or I can also share my email address. But if you basically submit an expression of interest, so if I just pop this onto the next page. We've asked everybody to register their interest in the programme as a whole. So that's the black QR code. So if you fill that in, I'll have your details so I can contact you directly. And like I say, we can share out all of the information as well, and you can contact us directly. If you would like to put in an application to the CTA challenge, then the blue QR code is the one that will take you directly to the Edge website. And on the Edge website, we have everything set out there. All of the detail that Nick's taken you through today in terms of what the challenge looks like from CTA's perspective is on there. So you can get all of that information directly there. And obviously our contact details are on if you do have any questions that you'd like to follow up with. And as I say, the deadline for that is the 5th of September. No, Friday the 6th, apologies. I knew I was going to get that bit wrong at the end. I had 4th in my head and I knew that wasn't quite right. 6th of September. I think we've got one question from Rada.
Hiya, it's directly to CTA. Do you have a list of ideas that were tried out for this particular problem?
So we haven't taken specific action before on this.
Right.
What has happened? So we've last year we ran a project with 18 of our members, and through that project we had to gather a range of data on passengers, so the passenger demographics, where the passengers were going, so lots of trip data, all of this kind of information. So we gathered that on 2,000 passengers, and what really showed, and it was just a simple spreadsheet that they had to fill in, and what we found was there was quite a lot of discrepancy in what people were sending in to us. So, and they found it quite challenging. So it's how we have a system that is really straightforward for them to put in standardized bits of information. It is going to be the key part to it. But so that was 18 organizations with 9 months worth of one of their journeys was 2,000 passengers. So we are expecting thousands and thousands of lines of data to be shared through this. So it's quite a lot of data, but people collect things slightly differently. But we haven't tried lots of different methods at this point. We're quite at the beginning of the process.
Thank you for that. Any other
Can you
questions?
share that data to us?
Sorry.
Can you share that data to us, or is it DPA'd?
No, we can't share that data with you. We could probably share the blank form, but we couldn't share any completed data because it's got personal information in it. But we could share the blank headers.
So you can give us what kind of data is in existence? Yes.
Yeah.
The outcome inferences, the hypothesis that you started with for your design of experiment or anything? No.
Yeah, we can share details. So it was a tackling loneliness project that we did. So we can, what we can do, Susan, actually, is share some of that with yourself, and then you can add it to those pages as an example, perhaps, on there in terms of the tackling loneliness project was a DFT funded project. So some of the data we collected was DFT specific, and some of it was then related to things that we wanted to additionally record through the project. So we've got a summary report for that project, but we can also use a couple of the sample forms that we were collecting as part of that, and the rationale behind what we mean by certain terminology, because journey means different things to different people. So yeah, we can include that.
Thanks, Carolyn. Thank you.
No problem.
Does anybody else have any questions then, or are we all done? No. Well, Caroline's very kindly put her and Nick's email addresses into the chat, and I've dropped mine and Hello Edge one. But again, like I say, if you go onto the Edge website or the Tees Valley website, then you can click through to us and we can get all of that information. So if anybody does have any questions and you want access to the chat at the moment, then please feel free to reach out to us and we can get that information to you. Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody, for attending. Thank you particularly to Caroline and Nick from CTA for all of your work with us so far to get this challenge launched and out there. And we very much look forward to having some fantastic applications, and hopefully we'll have a really difficult job on the 9th and 10th of September to actually work out which which of the potential businesses get to be taken forward with this. So thank you very much, everybody. And I will just stop the recording, and hopefully we'll look forward to working with some of you in the future.